Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. This is your Monday morning wake up call with Jack McNiel. Something weird happened to me the other day. It was kind of a really stupid mistake. We just come home from Wednesday night Bible class, and I had taken my shoes off, and I was wearing my sock feet, and I was walking around, and for some reason, I went running down the hallway and I slid on my feet. See, we've got these wood floors all throughout the house, and so from time to time, I just do that. I'm just weird. I like to slide across the floor, and so I was sliding across the floor, and ow! I ran across something. Something went into my foot, and let me tell you, that's hurt. It really kind of it didn't really hurt going in, but when it came time for my wife to try to fish it out with a pair of tweezers, let me tell you, that was some pain. Let me show you what went into my foot. I've got a picture of it on my phone, so let's see if we can get it up here where it's seeable. Notice that is just under 1 inch long. It's a splinter off of the oak floor. Went right into the ball of my foot. And like I said, very painful. So next time you want to go sliding across the wood floor in your sock feet, don't. That's my advice. And so, of course, thinking of that, when that happened, it reminded me, of course, of what Paul has to say in 2 Corinthians chapter 11. And so I want to talk about that for a few minutes here. So that kind of put me in mind. And so in verse 7 he says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure," he's talking about because of the numerous revelations he has received from the Lord. He could become arrogant, susceptible to that. And he says, "Lest I should be exalted above measure, through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord thrice, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then am I strong." And so the thorn in the flesh that Paul was experiencing, whether it was a literal thorn in the flesh or some other physical ailment that troubled him and caused him pain or discomfort. It was something that he didn't want. It's something he wanted to get rid of. It's something he prayed on 3 occasions at least that the Lord remove it from him. And the Lord told him, "My grace is sufficient for thee." God, the strength of God, the strength of Christ and his word working through us is made stronger in our weakness, in our human frailty. With God and his word working in us, that it's not of us, but it's of the word, it's of Christ, it's of God working in us. And so we see, because of that reason, Paul says, "I take pleasure in infirmities and in reproaches, in persecutions and distresses." He says, "For when I am weak physically," when we are weak physically, when we are weak emotionally, when we are weak spiritually, and we depend upon the Lord, only then can we embrace and have his strength on our side. He resists the proud. He gives grace unto the humble. And so that thorn in the flesh reminded Paul, and it kept him humble. It kept him recognizing that he needed God, that he needed and his dependence upon God. When we look over in Philippians chapter 4, Paul is talking about the needs that he has had, the financial needs, the physical needs. He's in prison. He's writing to the church at Philippi, which is one of the churches that has really had a great relationship with him, that they've really loved Paul and they've really helped him, contributed to him, to his needs financially, physically. And so he's talking about that in verse 10, "But I rejoiced in the Lord greatly, that now at the last your care of me hath flourished again, wherein you were also careful, but ye lacked opportunity. Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned, in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. I know both how to be abased, and I know how to abound everywhere and in all things. I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ, which strengtheneth me. And so again, that thorn in the flesh, be it emotional distress, certainly the care of the churches and the persecutions that he faced certainly would have caused him some emotional distress. And so maybe that thorn in the flesh is that emotional distress, that persecution that he hopes will come to an end. Maybe it's a physical problem. Some have maybe said that maybe he had myopia. He had a hard time seeing. And so that's why on one occasion he talks about, see with what large letters I have written in my own hand. And so others have said, well, it was just, the accumulation of all the beatings and all the things that he suffered. And so, in Philippians 2 Corinthians, I get it right. In 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he talks about a lot of the abuse, the physical abuse that he took. And so those things can have an effect on your physical body, being beaten with rods and being stoned half to death. Things like that certainly could, leave you incapacitated. So whatever it was that was causing Paul to feel that thorn in the flesh, it was made him stronger in that it made him recognize his need for the grace of God and for the strength of Christ. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And so we need to have that attitude and recognize that when we are weak physically, emotionally, spiritually, and we're dependent upon God, only then can we be strong. Only then can we have the strength that we need to deal with life's problems and to deal with those proverbial thorns in the flesh. And so, hey, thanks for joining us this morning, and I hope that you have a good week and look forward to the next opportunity. God bless you all. Thanks.